When I went for my first lesson with Francis to learn how to draw, he took me up to his studio on the third floor, sat me down in an old chair, and gave me this lecture. He said, all drawings begin in the same way. It is the courage to make your mark. It is all about making that mark on the page that begins the drawing. And once you make that mark, you can go in many directions. You can extend it out into a line. You can double that line back upon itself and make shapes. But until you have the courage to make the mark, nothing will happen. It begins by making the mark. That is indeed how it began. Just after he plucked us out of the waters of our baptism, sealing us with the Holy Spirit, God marked us with the cross of Christ forever. It is an indelible mark. We cannot wash it off. We cannot erase it. It is there for our entire lives. It will be that mark that God will recognize as God's own, made upon us, for us. Even in the midst of the shadow of death on an Ash Wednesday, that mark becomes so plainly clear. It is God's mark. And it was a mark God made in great courage. Because God has no idea what we're going to do with our marks. What kind of lines or shapes we will give to that mark of God in the days of our life. God took a real risk on us as an artist to allow us to make a mark on his behalf. And what will that look like? When I began drawing with Francis, I confessed to him that my junior high art teacher had told me that I had absolutely no artistic ability, and that I should pursue endeavors in a field unrelated to art. He laughed at that, as only Francis could laugh. But he confessed to me many years later that in those early days and weeks, he began to wonder if she wasn't right. When I look back, I realize part of the problem. My marks were very tentative. I was afraid of making a mistake. I was afraid of getting it wrong. I was afraid of being embarrassed. I was afraid of not being good enough. It wasn't until I took the courage to boldly make my mark that I began to produce anything worthy of showing someone else. We are given a unique opportunity by God to make a mark, a new mark. One of the things I discovered was that last week's marks that I made in art class were last week's marks, and that I had a new opportunity every week to make new marks. And some of them led to nowhere, and some of them weren't too bad. But until I had the courage to make my mark boldly, nothing happened. God gives us each new day to make a new mark. In faith, in hope, in love. To make a mark on this world. Knowing that God's mark is always there. His claim upon us is always good. We can't screw it up. We can't mess it up. We can't blow it. Oh, we can do plenty of scratchings. But in the end, our life will be drawn out by God. And it will be worthy of hanging in any heavenly gallery. Not because we are Van Goghs or Monets or Rembrandts or Jackson Pollocks or Andy Warhols. Or maybe we just draw stick figures. Whatever it is, God calls us to do it boldly, in faith and in hope, and always with love. Remember and rejoice, renewed by floods of grace. We bear the mark of Jesus Christ that time cannot erase. We pledge ourselves anew to flee the lures of hell, to cling to Christ's community, in justice, peace to dwell. God bless us by your grace, remind us of your care. Renewing Spirit, fill us now, inspire our work, our prayer. Remember and rejoice, renewed by floods of grace. We bear the mark of Jesus Christ, that time cannot erase.